and welcome to Biz Buzz with Bruno. I'm your host, Michael Bruno. And of course, we're always presented by the wonderfully fabulous madstheater.com. Go Bucky! Yay, Badgers! For those of you that are watching us live, you can also watch the show afterwards when it's all over with. And today, we're really very fortunate to have Sun Prairie Civic Theatre and their production of Murder on the Orient Express with the lovely and talented Sarah Piper, who will from now on be called Piper because there are so many Sarahs, and Mike Schuster, who I'm going to call Schuster because there are 12,000 Michaels around here. So thank you so much for coming in today. We're excited to have you here. So tell us, first of all, a little bit about Sun Prairie Civic Theatre.
Yeah. Well, you're on the board, so maybe you want to take that one?
Okay.
Sure. So Sun Prairie Civic Theatre has been around since 1970, producing community shows and bringing the community together to experience theater backstage, onstage, in the audience, and promote theater and the experience of theater overall. So we do about 3 main stage shows a year, plus a couple of youth programs and the Penguin Project, which is for artists with special needs.
Yeah. Very special company.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I'm always amazed at the volunteers that show up for Sun Prairie. Ever since they first started, your volunteer base is probably the biggest I've seen in any community theater in southern Wisconsin. So how as you be on the board, how do you keep that interest, and how do you get all those people to volunteer for you?
I wish I knew the magic answer, but I think in many cases we want the experience always to be fun, right? We want people to enjoy what they're doing because we are all volunteers, right? So if we're not having fun producing shows, then what's the reason? So on top of all the other things, it's putting the time and effort into it, and then also there's a lot of leeway, I think, in many cases of what the artistic teams have in terms of bringing certain sets to life. We try to put as much support as we can around the volunteers who are coming in so that they can really shine and have the ability to do what they're passionate about doing. And a lot of times it's really it's having fun and bringing people involved, and then you want to come back and do it more often and continue to stay engaged with people. But I wish I knew the magic.
And if you did, you wouldn't give it out because then other people would have it, right? Keep that close to the vest.
Right.
So how long have you been on the board?
So I've been on the board for four or 5 years now. I think I'm in my 5th year on the board.
And how do you find the juxtaposition of being in a show and being on the board? Do you find that's hard to take those different hats off at times?
There's elements of that you find yourself in a conversation about something else in the middle of a performance last night at intermission. I'm having a conversation with somebody else about things going on the board or other operational things that we're working on, and then it's like, oh wait, I gotta go get ready to get back on.
As his director,
back on stage.
So thrilled to hear
But so there's always that juxtaposition, but it's just, we make the time. So we also know that when you're in the production or heavy involved in certain things on the board, it's like, okay, well, that'll push off until after the show, because as a volunteer, you balance what you can fit in.
So give us a little backstory. So Piper, we're going to start with you. So tell us how you came to be here today and where you've come from.
Oh, yes. The condensed version, of course.
Yes, of course.
I'm originally from Alaska.
Really?
Yeah.
You're our first guest that's from Alaska.
Well,
ding, 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 ding.
Born and raised.
That's very cool.
Yep. Born and raised there.
Wow.
And I got involved in backstage theater when I was there with a company up in Alaska called Alaska Theater for Youth. Shout out for ATY.
And what city was that in?
Anchorage.
In Anchorage, okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't say I was part of the fun part of Alaska that everybody's like, oh, that's so unique. It's Anchorage, where everybody's from. But yeah, I got the backstage bug there and moved after that for graduate school, and had the opportunity when I was teaching actually to run the theater program for the high school I was at in Montana. And it was really wonderful. And when I was no longer teaching there, I really wanted to stay involved in theater. And so I started volunteering with community shows. And when we moved here to Wisconsin, first thing I did was start looking at who can I volunteer with? And I can tell you one of the secrets about Sun Prairie Civic Theater's volunteer stuff is they are really wonderful, and not that other places aren't, but they're really wonderful about taking the time to ask your name and saying hello. Sometimes when you come in as stage crew, everything's so busy that it sort of just flies past. But yeah, it's a very welcoming group. So
where did you come? Did you go right to Sun Prairie when you came to Wisconsin?
Yeah, we have family in the area, and they live out in Sun Prairie. And so that was a big part of why we were moving here. So, yeah. Yep.
So now tell me a little bit about your directing experience. Obviously, this isn't your first time at the rodeo, is it?
No. No, I was, like I said, I was fortunate to be directing when I was at the high school that I taught at. And I've gotten to do a lot of stage managing since then in community shows. And yeah, it's been.
And how about for Sun Prairie?
This is my first time directing for Sun Prairie.
I knew there was a first time somewhere in there.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, very much first time directing for Sun Prairie. Yeah.
And had you done other shows in other capacities with Sun Prairie?
Yes.
Stage managing? Have you acted in any of the shows?
No, I don't do the front of the curtain stuff. That's not my thing. I let other people take care of that part. But yeah, so I'd done assistant stage managed with them. I've done some stuff just running boards for different shows, set crew stuff. Just kind of jumped in and said, where do you need a person? So.
Wow. Every company needs a person just like you to do that. Boy, howdy. Having worked with many companies, you need somebody. I don't want to be in front of the curtain. I want to do everything behind the stage. Yeah. You're hired. Come. Yes. Yes, we love that.
Techs always work.
Yeah, exactly. So, Mike, what's your story?
Yeah, so from a theater perspective, I did high school theater and some of that. And then I took a 25-year break from doing theaters. I did professional things, and then as certain things changed, my kids got involved in Sun Prairie Civic Theatre and a couple of their youth productions. And then watching them, and I had some career transition and had some free time in the evenings and decided that I would throw my head in the ring in 2018 to get back into it and get on stage again. And got into that production and then ended up going out for different shows since that.
And you're a Wisconsin native?
No, I grew up in Michigan, outside of Detroit, and then moved out east after college for 10 years and lived out in the Philadelphia area for 10 years and then moved to Wisconsin for a job as we were starting our family. And then as they got a little older and got involved, and then all of a sudden I found myself involved, and then I said, I could do this, and then all of a sudden I was doing that. And kept going, and it's fun to do a show, 1 or 2 times a year.
And is your primary interest in acting, or have you also done directing and backstage work as well?
So I haven't done technical backstage work. You never know what'll happen from a directing or something perspective. The primary interest was acting, but I manage a lot of the marketing and promotions for the group, having some interest in that in general. So I, like any volunteer organization, I raised my hand at one point and said, hey, who's helping to promote this show?
And that was your first mistake. Never raise your hand.
And I haven't stopped doing marketing and promotions for the group since. Yeah. So that's my primary role for with the group outside of if I get cast in a show and I'm on stage. So even this one, I'm doing double duty.
As people are wont to do.
Right.
You have to wear many hats with community theater.
Yeah.
Right, and that's great.
So Piper, tell to me a little bit about Murder on the Orient Express, and if people don't realize that this is an actual play, not a movie, which most people think, oh, I've seen the movie. Who knew that it was a play? So talk to me a little bit about the play.
Yeah, it released fairly recently, this adaptation of it. Ken Ludwig is the playwright that they approached, the Agatha Christie's estate approach to do it. I was so excited when I saw it on the list of shows for the season because I am a huge Agatha Christie nerd. Have watched every version of Poirot probably of all time. And so it was really exciting to see it coming to the stage because there's been, film adaptations of it. And there's parts of those I really like, and there's parts of them that you watch and you think, oh, I wish that this had happened or that had happened. And so it's been lovely to make my vision of it come out on stage with the help of a huge number of very talented people. And it's a condensed version from the books, I would say. So if anybody's read the book, which is what prompted the movie, which is what prompted the play.
Right.
The characters are slightly different. They've edited down the character list a bit. So some of the beloved favorites might not be there, or they might be combined into a single human. But without giving too much away, there's still plenty of murder and mayhem and door slamming goodness. It's a very funny show, I would say, too, the way that it's been adapted. So there's some really good humorous moments to break up the tension and sort of build it up also.
And how many are in the cast?
There's 11 in our cast.
That's a good sized cast for a mid-sized theater, because you're in the old high school, which is now the middle school, right?
Yep. As a recent local resident, I've only lived here a year. I didn't realize it used to be a high school, and so as people were telling me, "Oh yeah, it's here or there," I'm like, "Why are you all describing different places?" So yes, it is currently called Central Heights Middle School.
Central Heights. I can never remember what the name of it. Central Heights.
Same.
Right.
So, it's a really great cast on stage, and then we've got about probably 11 or 12 people backstage as well, doing a variety of things throughout the show, from props to costume help to stage crew to light, sound, the whole 9 yards.
And does the whole entire action take place on the Orient Express?
No, we actually start out in the beautiful city of Istanbul.
Oh, Constantinople is Istanbul. Constantinople. Thank you, Badminton fans.
Yep. So we start out there briefly, and then we board the train, and away we go into the snow and the terror.
So, which leads me to talk about Hercule Poirot and your vision of him.
Yeah, well, I was a huge Agatha Christie fan, or am, but read a lot of the books when I was young and growing up. And so when we decided to put this into the lineup, I was like, I need to audition for this show. I wasn't necessarily thinking that I would get Poirot. I went out for Poirot, and any other number of characters saying, hey, that'd be great. This just sounds like a great, fun show, and I'd love to be in it. So I was humbled when I got the invitation to be Poirot, and also felt a little bit of that weight of like, there's so many Poirot adaptations out there, from the movies to the TV show, and that, wow, people are going to have expectations of what Poirot is like. So he's a very complex, interesting character, because he's such an intellect, and he observes everything and picks up everything and has little eccentricities, but he's also complex. And this is a great part about this play, is he's at a juxtaposition where he's just come off of a case that's been really stressful for him and trying, and he's not sure. He's pretty sure he still did the right thing, but not sure he did the right thing. And you get that sort of a flashback at the start of the play, introducing you to this sort of struggle he's having.
He's in a moral crisis point in his life. When you read the books as well, it's a point where he shifts. I think Agatha Christie had realized he was getting a little bit, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but he was so focused on there's a right and a wrong, black and a white, that there wasn't a lot of room there for growth. And so this is the case where he really shifts into, maybe there are those gray areas where the right thing to do isn't quite so clear. So it's a really complex character. Yeah. And Mike did wonderfully at auditions also, in case anybody is wondering. Like, I knew he was getting cast as Poirot at auditions, which is why I cast him.
So the real question is, did you have the mustache before the audition?
No.
Or did you grow up after you got the part?
After I got the part. I did put on my audition form that I was willing to lose any facial hair or grow any facial hair that I needed. So I came in with a beard. Not just a trimmed one, not a full beard or anything. And so when I got cast, the first thing I did is I asked Piper, I said, so should I start growing out the mustache?
I was like,
and
yes.
She said, yes. So yeah, this is 7 weeks worth of growing.
I'm so envious, because I never, ever get the ends of my mustache to grow that thick to curl them.
Yeah, and we didn't know what would happen. I've never grown a mustache in my life.
Seriously? Really?
So I've never grown it out as a mustache. So I didn't know what it would, we didn't know what it would turn into. And so as we got closer, about 2 weeks out, then I shaved down to the mustache, and we're like, oh, look, there's a little bit there. And then, the last couple of weeks, it's gotten a little little longer, and so now we can put enough wax in it that it starts to turn, and it's almost, which is right for Poirot, because he's supposed to have this mustache that stands out, and in the books it's described as enormous, and this really eccentric
it's one of those things
thing.
where you really can't do that with if you did it with clean shaven, people be like, what? Hey, what's going on? It's like having Hello Dolly and not having her in the red dress coming down the stairs.
Right.
It's one of those iconic characters in literature and in film and now and on stage, where you really have to have that. It's interesting.
And I was thrilled that I was able to grow it so that we didn't have to try some fake
and there
mustache, right? Because there's nothing worse than that, or being on stage and worrying about whether the mustache is going crooked or sideways or falling off. And so,
plus you have to smell that spirit going the entire time, which is awful.
So it's been a lot of fun, and it's taken on almost a character of its own. I'm having people that I know really well say, your stash, like last night, a couple of friends came back to me and they're like, Mike, I loved it, but your stash stole the show. But he's so known for the mustache that I really wanted to play that as, give justice to the mustache and have that stand out. And knowing that because of the books, I'm not necessarily short, and he's described as shorter, but Kenneth Branagh wasn't all that short either. So there's been plenty of depictions of Poirot that are not.
Plus, if you look at how tall or short a person is, you kind of that's the point of it. You're interested in the character, as the characterization. That all goes away as long as you have the mustache. You're fine.
People will forgive a whole lot of other things as long as the mustache is on point.
Exactly. So now, does in the script, does it explain what case he came off of, what book that's from?
Not the book that it's from.
So, but it does discuss what case he's come off of before he ends up being on the Weird Express.
So he meets up with a friend, Monsieur Bouc, who is actually the kind of the manager of the train company, and he is sharing with him, this in a flashback kind of moment that he's trying to take this vacation because he had this very challenging case, but he's being called back to London, and so he has to board the train and head on out. And it turns out the train ride has more surprises than he bargained for.
And he wasn't hoping to get involved.
Exactly.
He got on the train.
Wrong place, wrong time.
And then Death on the Nile is the case that he comes out of this and heads off to. So,
okay. And they haven't done an adaptation of that yet, have they?
No.
That's probably got to be next. That's another one. That's such an iconic book and such a great character.
A wonderful story. Yeah. Talented writer.
Yeah, amazing. An amazing writer. So where in the season is this for Sun Prairie? Is this the end of the beginning of the season? It's the first one of the season?
Well, technically, it's the end. We consider the season calendar year, but because of scheduling and not knowing certain dates until certain times, so when we can get into a facility. So from a fiscal perspective, our season is a calendar year, but we don't know. We can't announce dates for, as we get 2025 planned, we can't announce full final dates for the whole year until we get all the dates aligned for when performances are. So it's technically the last, but in a typical theater season, it would be what people would consider the first.
Do you know what the shows are going to be for the next year?
We do. We do know
what's
what's
a secret?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm in charge of marketing, so if I want to announce it now, we'll announce it now. So we'll go ahead and let you know. Yeah, so we've got Murder on the Orient Express now, and this is just the main stage. Some of the others aren't figured out yet. And then come January, we'll be doing Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The big musical, and that's the more modern,
with
the newer adaptation of it. So that's going to be a really fun one. And then in April, we have 9 to 5, the musical. And then in June, the Penguin Project will be doing Addams Family Young at Art, I think is what it's called, but it's the youth edition of Addams Family. So that'll be a great show to see for them. We have not yet determined what the youth summer programs will be. And then the big announcement, I'll go ahead and reveal it because it's coming right after this show. So you are getting the privileged thing is next fall, we will do Sweeney Todd the musical.
Oh,
the Demon.
wow.
Yeah.
Ben likes that.
And we're very excited
like
for that, and
that,
the artistic team's starting to work on it, and we'll
and
have the
that's
official
a tough
big
show,
stuff.
boy. You got to have some singing talent for that show.
Yeah.
It's Sondheim at his Machiavellian
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
And
Wow, great,
And we're already
exciting.
working on 2026, but we can't announce any of that yet.
Sure. So, are there anything anecdotal that happened during your rehearsal process? Because obviously, this is it's a rapid fire whodunit, kind of in its fullest sense. Anything that was challenging or unexpected?
I'd say that the cast did a wonderful job across the board with their lines and getting, that pitter patter down. Though Mike's laughing because he has about 9 billion lines in the show.
And Piper gave us 2 weeks to be off book.
And you all were fine. You were all fine.
We all did fine.
Yeah.
And Piper did great at telling us what scenes we were doing that first week off of book, so you could sort of be prepared going into that. But we
And I
will
didn't
admit, as
expect you to know
actors in
every
general and in
single
community
line.
theater, and we knew we could call line at that point, but
And
Right.
I wasn't going to I brought chocolate. It was fine.
we weren't ready. I mean, from an acting perspective, it was we all accepted, and then Piper's like, yeah, so you have 2 weeks to be off book, and jaws dropped. At least mine.
Yeah.
And I went, okay.
But
We'll do it.
I really believe in that simply because it frees us up to do the acting part.
Oh,
the longer you're holding
absolutely.
the script, the slower it is to get all the rest of the character development to happen. And so
It really
I'd rather
helps.
have lines be called
Mm-hmm.
and, a little bit more stutter start kind of rehearsals for a little bit there and have them moving and walking and talking and doing things all at once. So
And now, do you still rehearse the barn? Is the barn still there?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God, that iconic barn.
Yep.
Yep. We're still in the barn. We were very, very fortunate that our set team had the set pretty much built
Yeah.
by time, or the framing of it built by time we started rehearsals.
Oh, that's nice.
Which really helped for this one because we're in a train car, and we're in
Uh-huh.
train cars and in train compartments, and you've got 6 people you're trying to fit into
Do a train.
a train compartment that has to fit on a mid-size, medium-sized stage. So it really helps to be able to play with the blocking and know early on, I think for all of us too, the eccentricities I would say that would happen is we would all of a sudden get a note saying, watch it, your arm just went through the wall.
right?
Right? Because it's cut, this set is cut out.
Don't look at him. You can't see him through walls.
So so the audience can see what's going on across the set, but as actors or as characters, we can't see what's going on through that open space. So if it's in the hall or if it's in this, it gave us a lot of ability to play with. No, you're
practice
yelling
that,
this
yeah.
down the hall. You can't just turn your head and look at the person that you can see.
Right.
So it gave us that was probably one of the big things, was just the fun of all of a sudden, oh, you're right. I got to rework that one. My hand just went through the wall, or I got to think about that differently. And
Yeah, it was definitely nice to have the set built so early. We when it was so hot, we had just started rehearsals in that heat wave we had.
Oh, yeah, there's no air in that barn.
No
is
air
there?
conditioning really, and so we ended up rehearsing in my basement, which
Hey,
conveniently,
what a great idea.
Yeah, all right,
Show in
they're,
the basement.
they're very handy. But we were able to tape off the floor plan, but it was just so different than
Right.
having the doors there, having the
Sure.
windows there. So that was one oddity that we had to deal with, was a little bit of basement rehearsal time. But then we got back on the set and it was just wonderful. And I actually had to call your arms going through the wall a lot less than I thought I was going to. Like, I really thought that was going to be like my life for the next several weeks. And I think I only had to say it like 3 or 4
it didn't
times.
happen as much.
Wow, that's
Like,
great.
yeah, it was not nearly the problem that it could have been.
And then I think the other eccentricity would have been the set rotates.
Oh,
So
Which is very fun.
cool.
It looks really
it's very
cool.
fun. So on one side is the dining car, on the other side is the sleeper car, and so the set rotates around. But we weren't rotating at the early parts of rehearsals.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough people or we were focusing on other things. We weren't rotating the set, or didn't want to lose time probably to rotate it. So we would do certain scenes on one side, hop to the other side, and then you had to remember, wait, stage right is this way, stage left is this way
It's the
now,
opposite
right?
way.
It's the opposite way. My audience is now over here, not over there.
Wow.
And so there were times where it was like, okay, you're going to exit left, and then we're like, wait, left?
Who's left?
Yeah, left
Which
where?
left am I going this way?
And the number of
and then we'd
times.
rotate it around,
Yeah.
and then we'd rotate the set for a different rehearsal, and then you'd get on your and you were like, wait, no, oh wait, yeah, stage right
Yeah.
for this set, right, is not on this side, it's on this side, so I got to be on the other side playing with it. But
Well, and that was hard for our carpenter crew too, because I'd send them notes after rehearsals of like, oh, can you look at the door handle on stage right or something, and I'd come back in and they fix something in a different position because in between me writing down that note and when they walked in, the set had rotated, and so it was no longer where I'd said it was, and so yeah, that was fun. But it when it rotates, it's just amazing to watch it happen because the crew's doing such a smooth job with it. The actors are all frozen in place, so it's like this revolving, like you flipped a page in a book.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah. So,
And you already had your opening night,
I did last night.
and everything went well.
it did.
It did.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
It did. It was so. I mean, anybody who's been in the production and right, when you finally get the audience reaction for the first time, because you're working on this for it had been basically 6 weeks of working on it, and we're enjoying it, we're having fun,
Right.
but we don't know where people are going to react, where they're not going to react, and the audience changes every night anyway, so we know what they reacted to last night will be different tonight. But it was so great to be up there and hear laughter at certain parts and hear gasps at certain parts when certain things are revealed, and you hear through the audience, or even even my wife was in the audience last night, and she said that when the set rotated, people were gasping. Now, I couldn't hear that part on stage, but she was like, people were like, wow. And so it's just fun to hear all that reaction for the first time and get it, because it gives so much more energy and dynamics to the show. I don't know if the audience always realizes it, but when they're reacting, like it feeds the energy of the show, right?
And that's that's the actors, most amazing. You're doing it for each other, and you're like, oh, that's the funniest thing. They're gonna laugh at that,
Right.
And then you get an audience like crickets,
Right.
or they'll laugh at something completely unexpected, and then you're
Yes.
like, what the heck?
Was that wasn't meant to be funny? Uh-oh.
funny? Wait a minute.
And this show has so many cool layers. I think that you get really big laughter at certain times when it's really just a funny moment, and it's maybe an early part in the show, and it's a gag almost, or at a moment, and then as the show goes on and it gets tenser from the drama unfolding, and who did this, and are they going to figure it out, and who is the killer, is another crime going to occur, and all that tension starts building. It turns to like this nervous, like you can, it's fun because it turned into this nervous laughter you could hear in the audience during the slightly moments where it's supposed to ease the tension a little bit. It was, am I supposed to laugh? I'm laughing, but like I'm nervous now. And so it's really cool to just see the layers within audience reaction too.
When you mentioned layers, I think that's the thing that stands out for me in rehearsals that we had to play with, was there's so much of this that is the character is portraying one thing on stage to the audience, but the character's internal monologue is something different because they're not all telling the truth.
Right.
No spoilers.
No, that's Agatha Christie.
Right?
That's the hallmark of her writing.
And so a lot of our early rehearsals were really focused on, okay, everybody freeze. Tell me who you think you know right now and who you actually know right now that's on stage with you. And like just playing with that tension of, I know, you know, I know, you know, you know, I know. And, but it was wonderful to really dive into that with this cast.
Yeah. And the other people in the cast, were any of them their first time? Are these all seasoned veterans of theater?
They've all been in a show of some kind before, but about half of them, this is their first show with Sun Prairie Civic Theatre, and about half of them, this is, one of many shows potentially they've done. And yeah, it's a great kind of balance there.
And had you worked with any of the cast members previous to this show?
Yes. Two of them I've been in shows with prior. But both of them, my character in those shows didn't interact with them in their shows.
Okay, interesting.
One of them, we've done the murder mystery dinner theater that we we do. We had been in that, interacted with each other with one, but the others, we'd been in shows together, but hadn't really ever interacted as characters on stage, other than the backstage, getting to know them. So it's fun. In this one, I get to interact with everybody. So
Well, yeah.
so it's fun, and even the nuance thing. It was a lot of fun with Poirot to be figuring out. So because at certain points he figures out who might be lying or who might not be lying, but at certain points he hasn't figured that out yet. So at what point has he determined that if somebody's not telling the truth, they're not telling the truth, or is it in the moment realization? So there's all this great. It's really a show you could see more than once because of that, right? You could come see it, find out who did it, and enjoy that whole part of it, and then come back and watch it for the nuanced of can you pick up on
Right. What did I miss?
what did I
Can I
miss?
just say
the
this is
first
why
time?
he's in charge of marketing?
There you go.
It's a show you shouldn't see just once.
Right. So speaking of which, as a director, do you attend opening night and then let it go? Or do you go and watch all the performances and think, oh, they're reacting like this, that way, I should have done this way? Or what if I had done that? Or
Oh, you mean do I critique myself constantly?
Yes.
No, never.
because I know some directors will go through the process.
Yeah, and then
they go
they're
to
done.
opening
They
night and think,
release
okay,
it. Yep.
walk away
Yeah.
and I'm on to my next thing. And like me, I go to every single performance just to watch the audience reaction. And towards the end, I'm also watching okay, so you think you know the show and who's going to get real funny and add little bits and pieces in. And they always say, okay, Bruno's here. He's watching the show. But it's also fun to watch how they grow too.
Yes.
Because like you say, every show is different. The audiences are different. And the timing gets different because you realize, okay, maybe I should say that line. Take a pause here. Maybe I need to be
They're gonna
faster
laugh
with
at
that.
part,
Exactly.
yeah.
The laugh is going to come there, so I'm going to wait a little bit for the laugh. Or I've waited too long for the laugh. It's never coming, so I need to move on.
Right.
So what do you,
Yeah.
what's your preference as a director?
Well, I'm lucky on this one. I get to actually call the show a couple times because our
Oh,
stage
okay.
manager isn't able to be at every performance. So I will be at many performances regardless, or at least a few of them. But yeah, I think for me, I like going and seeing it. It's really validating to watch them get the credit that they deserve from the audience, of, okay, this is amazing. And people are recognizing that and clapping and laughing and gasping. And it's really lovely to see those different shows because every one of them has a different audience. I like it when they start adding little funny bits because one of our classic lines about this is people reminding me this is not a comedy. We're murdering people. This is not a comedy because there's so many funny lines in the play that it does lend itself to that.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I tend to go to all of them. I don't know. What am I going to do? Sit at home and live text? Text the stage manager every 5 minutes being like, Katie, tell me what's going on. Tell me what's going on. How's it going? Because realistically, that's what I'd be doing.
Is there a show on your bucket list of shows that you think, I would love to get my hands on that to direct?
Yeah. I would really love to direct Clue someday.
That's a fun show.
Yes.
Talk about a show that changes all the time.
Right? And I've done a youth version of Noises Off called Nooses Off. That's more for high school kind of age.
Didn't know they did that.
They did, yeah.
That's a tough show
It
to
is
do.
so fun. They take
It's
out some of the,
great.
they gear it for high school. So it's still a lot of very, very fun stuff happening, but they just kind of tone down the raunchiness
just
slightly,
the
right?
slapstick for more than the innuendo.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, if you ever get a chance to do that one, I'd always recommend that one. But yeah, Nooses Off would be on my bucket list for sure.
Cool. And what about you, Mike? Any part that you think, before I'm too old to play that part?
It's funny. Everybody asks me that, and then I don't know if I have specific bucket list roles, but I will say this, I think, is now going down as one of my favorite roles of, it will be a role that I am so happy that I got and able to perform. Other than that, I don't know that I just fun, interesting characters like to me are great. I love playing the character parts where you're just the comedic, character, because you get to do wild things. But playing, I mean, this is my first lead big. It's the biggest role I've had. But it's been great. And I don't know if there is a bucket list role, but it's just fun to do roles. So I don't,
Okay. Have you done musicals as well as comedy?
I have, and that's something I did not think I would ever do.
Really? Why? Did you think you can't sing?
Well, partially, I was like, I'm not that.
Or is it maybe you can't sing?
No, I was like, I'm not. This is how community theater works, right? I was like, I did like a musical in high school, and I did one in 5th grade.
Oh, come on, what was it?
In 5th grade?
Yep.
The Runaway Snowman, and I played the boy who made the snowman. So I was one of the two leads. Mm-hmm. But
when the bug hit you? You got bitten by the acting
probably.
bug
That was when it
Yeah.
hit.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is a lot of fun. I should do more of this. But then I only did one, and I competed with sports, so I only did one in high school. And then I didn't stick, this is more than you want to know probably, I didn't stick with choir, as I became an adolescent. And so when your voice changes and everything else, I sort of felt like I lost that knowledge of certain singing. But then after I got involved with Sun Prairie, we're at a party or an outing once, and everybody's joking around or singing happy birthday to somebody. And one of our longtime directors and longtime members, Liv, looked at me and she said, "Mike, you can hold a tune." And I went, "What?" And she said, "Well, you should audition for a musical. We need guys." And I'm like, I don't do musicals, thank you. And
I don't do musicals.
because I was like, I'm not a right.
Wow.
Because I'm not a musical. Because I didn't see myself as a musical person,
to Liv
right?
would
I
have
was
been.
like, I'm not.
Right.
And she's like, I think you can do a musical. So my kids, they were doing Matilda,
Aha.
and my kids were auditioning to be in Matilda. And I said, well, I guess if there's any show to try to be in a musical for, I'll do it to be in one with my kids. Mm-hmm. And then I auditioned and got cast in the show as Rudolfo. And so played the character part, and then went, okay, this is kind of fun. And so now I've done a couple musicals with Sun Prairie and a handful with Cambridge Deerfield Players. So
all because you had to sing happy birthday.
all because I think we sang happy birthday loudly to somebody at a cast party. So so I realized, okay, I can handle this. And it takes for me at the time, it was building up the confidence that I would be okay with getting little solos, and so certain roles have gotten a little bit more, and I've gotten more comfortable with it. So yes, I do musicals now too.
Cool. So we're going to take a short little break because we have a lovely little commercial announcement in here. So we'll be right back after this message from one of our local sponsors. We'll be right back.
I'm Finn Gallagher. I'm the playwright and the director behind The Untold Story of the Collier Brothers. It's a play based on a real-life, kind of half urban legend, half historical event about these two brothers who lived in Harlem in kind of the mid-20th century. And they were super wealthy, so they had this big brownstone in Harlem that was like 5 stories. And they were hoarders. So they filled up like every square foot of this house with stuff. By the end of it, they had 140 tons of stuff. The two of them became kind of a media sensation for their sort of weird behavior and strange lifestyle. And they kept showing up in the newspaper and trying to become more and more reclusive. And that kind of push and pull is at the center of this play. The more they try to hide, the more people want to find them. We are opening on October 11th at the Bartell Theater, and we run on the weekends until October 26th. So there are 9 performances total, so you'll have plenty of opportunities to see the Collier Brothers.
This record is issued by the Columbia Gramophone Company to Kingston, Texas.
Okay, thank you, Madison Public Theater. Go and see live theater. It's in your best interest to go and see live theater in this amazing Dane County that we have amazing companies just like Sun Prairie Civic Theatre that's been around since 1970.
Yeah.
Wow. I was in high school then. I was in high school in 1970, and then went high school of the Sacred Heart. Ah, yes. Speaking of things of thanking, I also have to give a shout out to the Overture Center's 20th anniversary gala, which was an amazing evening. And we had so much fun, and it's another gift to Madison is that Overture Center for the Arts, which is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful performance space. And again, we had my husband Jim and I had a lovely time there. So shout out to the Overture Center for Performing Arts on their 20th, and for many, 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 many more years to come. So now we got the business part out of the way. So now tell me a little bit more about what shows you have remaining for Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah, so we have a show tonight, October 4th, and then there'll be a show tomorrow afternoon, matinee on Sunday, and then next weekend we have shows Friday and Saturday night and Sunday matinee.
So the matinees are this Sunday and next Sunday?
Yes.
Correct.
And the rest are they 7:30?
7 o'clock.
Oh, 7 o'clock.
Yep.
Oh, early bird special. I think you're probably the only company that does a 7 o'clock show. I've never heard. Some do 7:30. Most of them do 8. So what was the decision for 7 o'clock?
We used to do 7:30, and then within the last year or so, we moved it up to 7. Partially because some of the shows, the longer, when you're doing the classic musicals, like A Sound of Music, it's a 2.5-hour show. And we need to be out of a building by a certain time.
Oh, sure.
And
sure.
it gets late. It gets late for an audience, too. It's starting at 7:30. It's wrapping up closer to 10. It just feels later. So we made the decision to just move it up to 7 and make it an earlier curtain time. We had done that for a number of the youth shows. So we knew audiences would come out for a 7 o'clock show, and so far the feedback's been great. 7 o'clock works, and
That's great, especially now that it's dark at 6:30.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else are you going to do but go see some theater?
Exactly. Go and
Yeah.
see a show.
Yeah.
Right.
Where it's sunshine and lollipops on stage all the time.
Well, this one's about murder.
Well, that's true. But there's some
it's still good.
behind every cloud,
Yeah.
there's a murder and there's sunshine.
Right.
Murderers everywhere. It's fine.
And tickets are available on the website?
They are.
Yes, you can get the tickets on the website at sunprairiecivictheatre.com, or you can get them at the door right before the performance.
Cool. Wonderful. Thank you again for spending your afternoon with us. Congratulations on your opening night. And I hope your second night is as uproariously good and wonderful with your audience for the rest of the run of your show. It's wonderful meeting you. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
for having
us. It was
us.
great.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for joining us. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you for joining us on Showbiz Buzz with moi. As Hercule Poirot would say. Bravo. Moi.